Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
A fabulous free kick from Leighton Baines. Dawson, what a finish from Glenn Dawson. It's 2-0. It's scored by Tim Cahill in injury time for Everton. Matheson, the 16-year-old, to Wilbraham, the 40-year-old. Stunning from James Rodriguez. And here into Henderson. And Ian Henderson, right on half-time.
Hello, welcome to episode 22 of the Men in Blue podcast. We have a very special edition today. Anything Netflix do, we can do better. We've got a special all about the biggest club in the Northeast. Sorry, Middlesbrough, Darlington and Gateshead fans. We have got Ant and we have got Gary from the What a Ball Ache podcast, both Sunderland aficionados. How are we doing, gents?
Yeah,
I'll let you go first, Dan.
You're right, we are the biggest club in the Northeast. We don't need Saudi oil.
Don't know what you mean.
Well,
Don't know what you mean.
Yeah, very well as well. Nice. Thanks for having us on, guys. Appreciate it.
No worries. Had to return the favour. Obviously, I very much enjoyed being on your pod a couple of weeks ago. Please listen to the What a Ball Ache podcast, that one and other episodes, if you get the chance. And of course, stay here as well after you've listened to this one. Please listen to them. Right, so lads, first off, how on earth are you in League One? I know we've all seen it, but how are you? How are you still in League One? Are you determined to stay there forever, or because it feels like it at the moment? Or is this the year, finally your year, you get out of League One? Let's hope so.
Answer that one, Gary, or
I'll let you answer that one, and
right. Basically, the reason why we're in League One was years of bad ownership, stroke management, stroke everything that was going on with the club. To be totally honest, we were flirting with relegation for probably 6 years. Obviously we had the highlights of sending Newcastle down on my 30th birthday, which was brilliant. We were in Dublin, me, Gary and a few of my mates, when Sunderland beat Everton. Sorry, guys. But to be fair,
we were shy, don't worry about it.
It got Martin sacked at sound.
Yeah. But after then, Sam Allardyce left, went to England. I'll never forgive Iceland for beating us. Because we kind of felt at the end of that season that was the turning point, that we weren't going to be like in that position anymore. And then England go and lose to Iceland in the Euros, and Sam Allardyce gets the England job, and we got David Moyes in, and I don't think David Moyes wanted the job. I think he just wanted to be back in England and everything. And he kind of said on the second game of the season we were in a relegation battle, which he didn't adhere himself at all. He didn't really get the backing of Ellis Short. By then, I think Ellis Short got bored. And as you've seen on the Netflix documentaries, the first season we were in the Championship, Ellis Short's not to be seen. We've got Martin Bain trying to, really cost cut everything. And we ended up having, Simon Grayson, who wasn't a Sunderland manager. He's not good enough. And I don't mean that in a big-headed way or anything like that, but he's not got the calibre to manage Sunderland. And then Chris Coleman, who I thought would do an all right job, he seemed to get the whole idea of being a Sunderland manager, but he was hamstrung by not being able to spend in January. We ended up getting, players on loan like Lee Camp, who was just disgraceful, amongst others. And he then did not have a plan B when his three at the back formation didn't seem to work, and we went down. It's all there for everyone to see on Netflix still. I wish they'd get rid of that documentary, to be honest, because the first one's all right, but the second one, I can't watch the second one because it's kind of like what's going to happen. It's like watching Terminator, knowing Terminator's going to die. You don't want to watch it. So and ever since that we've been, I don't know whether we've been kind of thinking we'd get out of League One dead easily. It's proven not to be the case. We're in now, this is our fourth season, and we're fighting like hell just to get in the playoffs. Obviously, Lee Johnson came in. Me and Gary do have different views on whether Lee Johnson should have been sacked. Personally, I think he should have done, because we were losing too many games. Like the likes of Bolton 6-0, Rotherham 5-1, Sheffield Wednesday 3-0. And we were just getting absolutely bullied away from home. Alex Neil's come in, and the football's not great, but he's managed to get a solid base at the back, and we're starting to pick up results now. And it's been probably a little bit too late, I think, to get the automatics. But if we get in the playoffs, I firmly believe we'll go up, because I think Alex Neil's got what it takes to get teams out of that division. So fingers crossed anyway. So that's a long story short, I think.
Yeah, I mean, what Ant's just said there, 100% correct. I mean, if we go back to Moyes didn't care about Sunderland. It was clear and obvious from the second game of the season. It was clear and obvious from his signings that he didn't care. He signed an unknown in Didier Ndong when he could have got Jan Villa, who the fans loved, who would have been a brilliant signing for us long term. Grayson was obviously brought in as a yes man. He was blatantly told to put Jeremy and Lenz in the window to make some money for Ellis Short at the time. Chris Coleman, lovely guy, very honest guy, and I think we did see that in Sunderland Till I Die. I don't think his head or his heart was truly in it, and I think it was too little too late by the time we brought Coleman in, really. I think the club was just on its way down, which wasn't great from a Sunderland perspective. I mean, I don't think we ever thought in our wildest dreams that, or even nightmares, should I say, that would suffer back-to-back relegations and spend 4 seasons in League One. Then Charlie Neffen and Stuart Donald came in, which looked like a new era. Brought in Jack Ross, and to be quite honest, early on Jack Ross was good. He had no plan B, unfortunately, and ultimately that's what cost him his job. Then moving on from Jack Ross to Phil Parkinson, again, just going back to a yes man like Simon Grayson, horrible football. Like Anne says, we do have different opinions on Lee Johnson. I thought, personally, it was stupid to sack a manager after you just backed him in a window. In my honest opinion, yes, we did get absolutely drubbed off Bolton. It was a bad result. It was a sack of a result, not just for Sunderland Football Club, but for many other football clubs, especially in League One. We have brought in Alex Neil. Alex Neil is a championship manager. He's had 10 games and he's only lost 1. As Anne said, the football isn't great. It's very, very ugly, and I do believe he'll get us in the playoffs. But we're playing horrible football, and if we win ugly, right now I'm not bothered, as long as maybe we can see a final in the playoffs. I don't want to go down that route of saying we're definitely going to get in the playoffs, because I did this last year and we got smashed off Lincoln in the second leg, and I don't want to say that again because that hurt my feelings. If we get in the playoffs, we get in the playoffs. If not, then it's a rebuild season next year. With Neil, fingers crossed at least.
Yeah, I think 2 players that sort of sum up the Ellis Shaw's ownership as you were on the way down was the 80 grand a week Jack Rodwell, and is it the Ricky Alvarez saga? Is that the one where you agreed to buy him and you didn't want him or something, or there was some kind of madness there? He was on loan and you already agreed a fee. Am I right on that one? Was it him? Someone else, but absolute chaos from the top down.
To be fair though, Ricky Alvarez was before Moyes, it was before Allardyce. I think it was Gustavo Poyet who brought him in, and it might have even been earlier than that, but it's rumbled on, and actually is still rumbling on, where we are now taking, I believe it's his management company, to court to try and reclaim that money back. So it's just mental about that. Yeah, that was weird. And Jack Rodwell, the less said about Jack Rodwell, the better, to be totally honest with you, because he just came for the payday, which many players have come to Sunderland to do. I think Charlie Methven put it quite right. It was the graveyard for the unfancied footballer, to be honest. It happened with too many players. But Rodwell, I mean, you've seen on the documentary, lads, everyone's seen it. He did not want to be here, and then he didn't want to leave. There was a game where we were playing Brentford, and we were losing 2-0 at half-time at Brentford, and one of my mates had texted saying, I've seen Jack Rodwell in the Metro Centre on on the slots, so to speak, on the 20p slots, when you put the money in, and then, I like tipping point. He was on them, and it's like, you're meant to be at the bloody game, mate. He wasn't injured, just didn't want to play. So he's one of those ones, isn't he, Rodwell? He's a complete waste of talent. Could have been a great player, but he wasn't, unfortunately.
Sounds an eerie sort of parallel between Sunderland and Everton, really, at the moment, in terms of recruitment, poor management, just financial tomfoolery and complete fuck-uppery, really. Bringing it up to the modern day, though, where hopefully and thankfully things are sorted out. You've got a very young owner now, I believe he's the youngest owner in the EFL. Tell you a bit more about him, because I think he's the grandson of somebody quite rich, or, you know what, I haven't done as massive amount of research as the lads, but how's he getting on compared to the whole Stuart Donald, Charlie Methven, EDM type reign?
I'll take this one, and then if you want to add to it, from my perspective, Kyle Lewis-Dreyfus, he is the son of the owner of Marseille, as far as I'm aware, or he the owner of Marseille, I think, was his dad or his uncle that might have passed away, and then his mum has inherited his fortune. What I honestly think's happened is, we've got a new era, but then obviously it's came out the last couple of months that he's not the majority shareholder, and that Madrox still is the majority shareholder, which has caused a lot of controversy with the club, with the fan base, because no one really knows who is owning the club. And I mean, me and Anne had a discussion about this, and I personally thought maybe Kyle Lewis-Dreyfus has been brought in to be a face, while Madrox hide behind him, and he's ultimately going to be the whipping boy while they do stuff behind the scenes. Recent stuff, may say that might be the case. They clearly still have a seat in the boxes at the stadium, at the away stadium. I mean, Stuart Donald was at the Oxford game at the weekend, and I read some stuff on forums about he is well and truly a dickhead, basically. But as far as Kyle goes, he's relatively quite a quiet owner. I mean, I think he's only done maybe one or two interviews. He did one really early on where he did actually speak quite negatively of the previous ownership, which, when you think about it, is quite strange if Madrox are still majority shareholders. But Ant will probably know a little bit more about that than I do as well.
Just on that front, Madrox do own 53% of the club, which is Stuart Donald, Charlie Methven, Juan Sartori mixed together. So it's kind of, when you break it down, Kirill is kind of the majority shareholder because he owns 47. But then the rest who are, so you kind of say I think Stuart Donald's got 34, Methven 6, and my math's ridiculous. So Kirill has got the outstanding say, but the thing is, this will never go away with Sunderland until Stuart Donald and Charlie Methven and everyone associated with them are out of this club. They took the job, they took the ownership, they didn't have the money, to control this club. They used the parachute payments against the club, which has backfired tremendously. They took like an £18 million loan out from the club to pay something else off, and still haven't put that money back in. Charlie Methven's been on other podcasts calling us worse than shit. To be honest, am I allowed to swear? Worse than shit. To be honest,
swear all you fucking want, mate. It's absolutely fine.
Brilliant.
Fully encourage it.
So
we need to swear around here, bloody hell, stress relief.
Yeah, it does need them to go. Our fully back Kyle Lewis-Dreyfus if he was to be our sole owner. I think there is something in place where he has the opportunity to buy them out at the end of the season should we be promoted to the Championship. So it's just sums Sunderland up in the last probably 5 to 6, 7 years, really, where there's a complete lack of transparency with the fans. The fans have a supporters group now who do get a seat at the table. They do get monthly meetings, or bi-monthly meetings, I think it is now. And so some answers have been given, but it's still very much smoke and mirrors, I think, and it needs sorting out for us to go forward, I believe.
Moving on to sort of on the pitch matters a bit more, well, somewhat. So obviously you've sacked Lee Johnson, Alex Neil's come in. There was talk though, and it was touted in the national media, of a return of Roy Keane. What was, obviously the national media were like, oh brilliant, get him in, get Micah Richards as assistant, it'd be banter. But what was the thoughts up in Sunderland about that? Because I imagine the perception was very much different to the way the rest of the country maybe thought of that. And what were your thoughts personally on the possibility of a Roy Keane return after what, about 14 years or something he's been away?
I think after Lee Johnson was sacked, we got beat off Doncaster at home. Under our caretaker manager was Mike Dodds, and the football, it was awful. It was the big Jermaine Defoe's comeback game. Was 40,000 fans there expecting, Defoe to get a hat trick or whatever, and us to absolutely, turn Donny over, and we ended up getting beat 2-1. And the football hadn't changed. It was just shocking. And when it got announced Roy Keane was heavily rumoured to be in, I was like, well, we're not going to go up anywhere. We might as well have a laugh until the end of the season, because Roy Keane in League One would have been brilliant banter. Like the standard of referees, Greg, you'll know about this, the standard of referees in League One are absolutely shocking. And Roy Keane losing his shit every week would have been brilliant. But he hasn't managed for a long time. He didn't do well at Ipswich, where he was before. It didn't last that long at Villa as assistant manager. So he's been out the game a while. It was a lucrative contract he's got at Sky. I'm sure he didn't want to let that one go without certain promises. And I think in the long game, Alex Neil is probably a better choice than Roy Keane. I think Alex Neil's done well since he's come in. The only thing that I'm a little bit like sceptical with the club is it should have been done as soon as Lee Johnson was sacked. They should have had a plan, and there was obviously not a plan. The plan was, we'll appease the fans, we'll sign Jermaine Defoe. That's turned into an absolute shitstorm because he's retired. Lasted 6 weeks. So it's just Sunderland really. But no, I think Keano's well. I love Keano. I love Keano as a player. One of my favourite players growing up. And as a manager, it gave me the best season of my life supporting Sunderland. When we went back up in the Championship, we were scoring late goals, left, right and centre. We just came from nowhere. We were bottom of the league after 6 games and it didn't look good at all. And Roy Keane came in and just absolutely transformed the club, to be honest. And then he made us stable in the Premier League before he went on a little bit of a Mad Hatter's tea party and then quit. But I've got absolutely nothing but respect for Roy Keane, but his time is best served on television now, being Micah Richards' video diary bum boy, I think.
I think Roy Keane is fantastic on Sky Sports News. Him and Micah Richards, they've got great chemistry. I will always love Roy Keane for bringing Steve Malbronk to Sunderland. He was a brilliant player. When the chatter came round about Roy Keane, I think probably every Sunderland fan was like, "Oh yes, let's get him in League One, show our ambition." And I think everyone was like that. But like Anne said, he's been out the game for a long time. Didn't really do it at Ipswich. Villa was assistant manager again. Didn't last very long, and the game's changed a lot. A lot of teams play 3-5-2. Look at Liverpool playing gegenpress, very high press football. Would Roy Keane be able to come into a Sunderland team? And at the time we were playing 3 at the back, would it have worked if he tried new tactics, new formations? I'm not sure. I wouldn't want him to have come in and for it to end bitterly, where he wasn't a success, because ultimately it was playoffs. Well, it was promotion on and off, and I imagine for Roy Keane, because he's a winner. He's won countless trophies with Man United. He wants to come in and win. He wants to not to get stuck in. He's got the passion. I just think if he came in, it would have ended in tears. And as Anne said, I think long term, Alex Neil is a better choice. He is a championship manager. If you look at what he did with Preston, like he kind of stabilised Preston. Preston are a team which no one really expects to be around the playoffs, never mind in it. And he did a very good job. He brought through some good players there as well. He does seem to have a big focus on youth, which I'm a big fan of. Look at our goalkeeper for now, Anthony Patterson. He's playing him at the moment. He's got a bit of a fancy for Jacob Carney as well, so could be first and second choice respectively next season. I think the board got it right with this appointment. As long as we don't potentially let him go in the summer, if we don't go up, I think he needs the project. And the 18-month rolling contract is bollocks, because effectively that's up in January 2023, which I find really odd that they give him an 18-month contract, but that's just me. But I think Alex Neil's the right appointment. Right now it is. If you look at the way the team is consistently, we look better at the back, albeit the football's ugly, and we are scoring goals as well. I think 6 of his 10 games were scored after the 80th minute, so there was long-term consistency over 90 minutes. So there is improvement being made, albeit the football is ugly. Fingers crossed, hopefully that improves.
You've gone for the more sensible, but equally as scary-looking appointment in Alex Neil. And I was going to ask you lads about what tactically has changed between him and Lee Johnson. I've noticed, like you mentioned, the late goals. I've got a quote from the Sunderland Echo today. It's the 8th goal after the 80th minute in 10 games. He's on 10 games, 8 late goals, got you a lot of points. That's got to be something that you'll take any day of the week. You're scoring late on, never knowing when the game's over, never knowing when you're beaten or drawn. A late win against Oxford at the weekend as well. So any particular major shift you've noticed in tactics, or just keep digging in and scoring late goals and see where it gets you, really?
Yeah, he's got us more solid, as I mentioned earlier. We were guilty, especially away from home, of conceding really silly goals, and we were looking. Whereas under Lee Johnson, we were fantastic at home, played some lovely football, probably the best football since we've come down. But away from home, we were getting bullied off. I'm not going to say good sides either. We were playing teams, like we went to Shrewsbury away, and we were 1-0 up. They were down to 10 men, and we conceded absolutely such a soft goal. And it was so many times under Johnson, we were just looking. We were really looking as if we were just going to fall over. He brought in a lad called Callum Doyle from Man City. Callum Doyle looked a really good centre half, but Callum Doyle hasn't had the experience of playing against the likes of Johnny Marcus, and these players who are ugly, the bullies, and he was just looking like a kid. The same with Dennis Serkin. He really struggled up until Christmas, and then he's actually really come on since Alex Neil's come in. What Neil's done is he's got us solid at the back. Gary's mentioned he's brought a young goalkeeper in called Anthony Patterson, who was on loan at Notts County up until the Wickham away game. Got brought back because both of our goalkeepers got COVID and hasn't looked back since. He's played every game since. I think Hoffman may have come back for one game. And since then, he's kept, I think, 6 clean sheets out of his last 8 games. He's kept us in the game on Saturday. Bailey Wright's come in, and Bailey Wright, for me, is a level above League One. I think he's an excellent centre-half. We brought Danny Bart in, who's looked okay as well. But he's, like I say, what he's done, he's sacrificed our forward play. Since Neil's come in, I think Ross Stewart's only scored twice. Ross Stewart was our top scorer. He hasn't scored many goals since then. I don't think he scored any from open play since February. So that's a little bit of a worry. But what's coming in is, as you've just mentioned there before, Jimmy, last-minute goals. Elliot Embleton's come off the bench the last 2 weeks, set up one and scored one. Nathan Broadhead's come back. He's tremendous, guys. I know that we've got a couple of Everton fans in here. He's an absolutely wonderful player. I hope you guys stay up and then let us have him, because he is a phenomenal footballer, and he's scoring a couple of late goals as well. And what I think it's brought in, it's a never say die attitude. But he's also what Lee Johnson was very much a Paul Moore manager. He was using all this jargon, all this, all this speak where he's a very good coach and he's being coached well in his head. He's read a lot of books, very well read man. Whereas Alex Neil's very much a down-to-earth, see it as it is. It's the first game, I think it was his first or second game, he said, this team isn't fit enough. And there should be. Even last week when we beat Oxford, he's took the blame for our poor first half performance, saying that was my fault. I tried to change the shape, trying to make us a little bit more attacking. And I really like that about a manager. Someone who is going to... Look, listen, football fans aren't stupid. You know, when we're seeing something on the pitch and a manager... We're going like 2 years ago now, manager Phil Parkinson was happy about getting a point against Gillingham away. No disrespect to Gillingham away, Sunderland should be beating these teams if they want to go up. And for Alex Neil just to say things like, you know, yeah, we've a couple of games where we've won, but we're being poor. He said that, and that's what I really like. And yeah, he's like I say, he's made us more solid, but he's also got us like just believing in ourselves a little bit more. I think, you know, go to these grounds, you know, go to Oxford away. Not many teams will take points from Oxford this season. You know, Oxford have a very good home form. And we're going into games now where we're actually thinking, yeah, we probably will win these games. You know, we're looking better away from home than what we are at home, which is, it's mental. It's really, really mental. It's a complete shift in philosophy, I think.
Yeah, I just want to second as well. Bailey Wright has been one of our most consistent players. When he's came in, he's looked absolutely the part. He's an absolute leader as well. What we need, and as Ant mentioned, Anthony Patterson, young lad, 21-year-old. He needs someone like Bailey Wright in front of him, who is a leader, who was captain of New Zealand before. Anthony Patterson will benefit from that right now. Anthony Patterson, I've spoke with Ant about this. I'm not sold on him yet. It is, you know, his command of the box, his communication. At the minute, for me, it's not there. But he's 21-year-old, and it will improve. I don't imagine Jordan Pickford was doing that at 21-year-old. So it will improve, and I'm confident it will. And we've got the right coach in Alex Neil, who will bring that out of him. But Alex Neil spoke very highly of Jacob Carney as well, who was released by Man United. They reckon he had quite a lot of potential. So, you know, if we had two homegrown goalkeepers fighting it out for number one, I'll be very happy with that long term. Again, recent performances. I don't know if Ant's noticed this before, but for me, I've noticed our wing players aren't really, you know, contributing as much as maybe they were previously. I think because we're winning ugly, it's basic football. Jack Clark's went relatively quite quiet, and, you know, a game or two he was quite explosive. Patrick Roberts is, you know, looking fitter. He's contributing a lot more as well, but that's only one wide player who's contributing. We have a multitude of wide players. Diaku has been out injured, but again, relatively looking quite quiet. I mean, and I don't know what you think of how our wingers have been performing lately.
It's been in and out. You know, I think Patrick Roberts has come in and been superb. Jack Clark, I'm not sold on, I must admit. I think Jack Clark tries to do too much. You know, if Jack Clark can get his head down and put the ball in, then fair play. But we've got a lot of wingers who are the same. You know, Lyndon Gooch is the same. I think Diako's come and he's been hot and cold. At the minute, he's cold. I don't think we'll sign him. But yeah, I agree to an extent of what you're saying about that, Gary. But yeah, it's what Alex Neil had to do was sort the defence out. You know, not concede 6 goals against Bolton, not concede 5 against Rotherham and stuff. And he's done that. Yeah, it's sacrificed our attacking flair, but we're still winning games. So at the minute, I think he will sort it out eventually. But the minute we just need to keep doing what we're doing, keep these clean sheets, and we'll make the playoffs.
Yeah, one player I want to touch on with you a bit more is Patrick Roberts. Purely, I mean, I don't know how long you've had him for, just looking at the squad list now, but former Fulham, Man City protege, only 25. I mean, surely there's a heck of a player still in there, especially at League One level. Obviously, depends how much you use your wingers, like you say, but thoughts on him? You say he's getting fitter. Does that mean he's not really had much game time? Is he only coming in January? Just thought it was a really interesting name that stood out to me on your squad list, amongst quite a few really in the squad that you've got.
Yeah, when he came in, you've got to respect the fact he was a twat, I think, in France. I hope I've pronounced that right. But he hadn't played many games. I think he played 3 or something like that. So it was getting him match fit. You can be fit, you can be physically fit, but we all know, we're all football fans. There's 2 complete differences between being physically fit and being match fit, and it's took him a little while to get going. I think. Lee Johnson, when he did have a man, Alex Neil, were being a bit careful with him, giving him the odd minutes. But he started the last 4 or 5 games for us now, and he's looking a very, very good player. He's got a lot of tricks. He is on form. A top level, probably top Championship, lower Premier League player, I would say. Look, if you watched him at Celtic, I mean, what a player he was at Celtic, and he just needs to find that form again. Needs to find his feet, and maybe that's where we can come in for him, because we have turned a few careers around. You look at Aidan McGeady, he was coming at the end of his career, and he's had a good swan song at us. Yeah, he's injured now and he's probably not going to play again for us, but he's done really well for us since he's come in. But Patrick, if he can stay fit and if he can just keep his head to himself and not get, I'm not sure what he was distracted by, but I'm sure he was at Man City. I'm sure it was a good nightlife he was getting distracted by or whatever. If he can keep himself focused on his football, I mean, we've got him until the end of the season with the option to extend, which I think they will take that option up. I would take that up. It doesn't matter what league we're in. And I think the sky's the limit for him. There is a player in there. It's like that a lot at City, isn't it? We've seen that with a lot of youngsters at City who they fly onto the scene. We can go as far as back as, I'm pulling a name out here, Michael Johnson, who absolutely burst onto the scene, scoring a couple of goals, and look at him, doesn't play football anymore. It's a tough thing to do. I think he's another one of those who hasn't benefited from, I think some of his moves have been poor for him. Going to France in Troyes, I don't know why he's done that for. Maybe he should have come to Sunderland at the start of the season, and we might have been in a better position in the league. But yeah, I really like him. I really do. I think he's my kind of footballer, where he's direct. He's got a lot of skills about him. He can score a goal. So I hope he stays fit to the end of the season. I hope we do keep him.
Do you not think though that he's being signed as a kind of short-term commitment to try and build a career somewhere else? Because we have to pay, I think, Man City $900,000 if he makes a certain amount of appearances, which in essence isn't really that much money. If we go up 900,000, isn't that much when we paid 1 million for Dennis Cirkin? What I do find a bit insane is that we can buy Leon Diaku, but the fee to buy Leon Diaku is 2 million. So I don't know if they see more potential in Diaku when they made this deal, when Speakman made this deal, or they do Robert. But I feel like I would love to see Robert stay. He wanted to play in the under-23s to get his fitness up, and I admire that because he does want to play football. He clearly wants to get his career back on track at 25 years old, because 25 years old, he's 5 years off 30. Most explosive talents now are coming through at the age of 17. You look at Cole Palmer at Man City, he's going to be most likely the next big thing that's going to be getting some game time. Liam Delap is another one. There's so much talent in that Man City team that really...
There's another lad as well, Doyle, on loan at Cardiff as well, or is that the same Doyle? It's not the same Doyle you've got, is it? There's one at Cardiff?
No, is he?
I think he may be, but looks a good player.
Striker?
I think he's a fullback.
Yeah. They've got so much talent in that team. They don't need Patrick Roberts. Patrick Roberts can come to us, I reckon.
Another one I want to pick you up on is just another name that stood out to me, ex-Huddersfield, ex-Norwich, 28 years of old, Alex Pritchard. Should be in the prime of his career, but he seems to drop down 2 divisions. He's played for you guys. Is that lack of attitude, just not met his potential? I haven't seen enough of him to really warrant my opinion, but he just stood out to me as on the name. I thought, what's he doing in League One? I thought he was better than that. He was quite a stellar signing for Huddersfield when they first came up a few years ago. So, your thoughts on him? Is he performing well, or do you think he's found his level now, really?
From what I've seen of Pritchard, he blows hot and cold. When he plays, and when he doesn't, he doesn't. This lad would spend time at Spurs. Like, he's been one of the best training academies in the world. Has he not? Again, much like Pat Roberts, hasn't really hit the heights of his career. Suffered a lot of injuries. Do I think he'll be there next season? I don't know. I don't know if Neil fancies him. He didn't make the team at the weekend because he was struggling with fitness. I feel like Neil wants to work more with the youth prospects like Dan Neil, who early on wasn't necessarily getting a game under Alex Neil. So maybe, Elliot Embleton might take that spot long term, because Elliot Embleton last couple of games has looked actually all right. But again, Pritchard could be another one of these players who's came to us to rejuvenate his career and then ultimately move on, and hopefully, for us at least, we get a return on how much we've spent on him, which granted it's a free transfer, but I think he's on $10,000 a week. It's still quite a high wage in League One. So we'll see. I mean, Ant might have another opinion on Pritchard. I haven't really seen much of him lately, to be honest.
It's because he's been out injured with an ankle injury. I haven't seen much of him. But for me, he's the best player in the Championship when he's on form. We had a run, and this was it actually coincided with the last few games Lee Johnson was in charge, but he was untouchable. He was just finding pockets of space. The reason why Ross Stewart's gone on his Barron spell is more than likely because Alex Pritchard hasn't been playing. He was just going on these, amazing runs. There's two outstanding players in League One, and it's Alex Pritchard and Barry Bannon from Chef Wed, who have just got that ability to change the game and just change it like at a click of a finger. I mean, the pair of them, I watched them both when we played Sheffield Wednesday at home. I mean, we won 5-0, we won quite comfortably, but the pair of them were just the two best players on the pitch by a country mile. So, he is finding his way back. I think he's only been back a couple of games now. Wasn't fit for the weekend, but he's another one where going into the nitty gritty part of the season is a player that I would want in my team, and a player if and when we do get into playoffs, he's a player I would have 100% confidence in that he's going to tear teams apart. Doesn't matter who we're playing. So I think Gary makes a very good point that we've got Embleton to try and fit in, who is really come to the fore the last couple of games. And that might mean that Jack Clark doesn't play. Jack Clark's been very hot and cold. So personally, I would look to maybe getting Embleton in instead of Jack Clark and bringing Pritchard back in. But he'll be a football manager, guys.
Not us, that's for sure. Just a thought on your squad as a whole then. Are there any players you think could make the step up to the Championship? Not necessarily for you guys, but there might be a certain team in blue on Merseyside that could be looking after some Championship level players next season. So a bit of an early scouting mission. Anyone you'd recommend that we could maybe throw a couple of quid at if we've got it? No, but seriously, any players that you've got you think if you do go up would definitely make the grade and step up for the Championship?
Well, on the other side of things, I want you guys to stay up because I want Nathan Broadhead off you. Because he's a phenomenal player, really, 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 really good player. Ross Stewart, I'll bring him out straight away. Fantastic striker who I firmly believe will play in the Premier League at some point in his career. Scored 23 goals, I think, this season, and not many. I think a lot of fans who weren't Sunderland fans were like looking at Charlie Wyke saying, "Well, he scored 30-odd goals for you last season. Why on earth have you sold him for?" Because we had Ross Stewart, basically. We a lot of Sunderland fans weren't that asked when Charlie Wyke left. Wyke, he was brilliant in that season, but Wyke got a lot of his goals because Aidan McGeady was crossing the ball in for him. A lot of them, they weren't like outstanding goals he was scoring. There were a lot of just basic headers and all that. Which, to be fair to Charlie, you still got to put them in the back of the net. But Roscoe's been absolutely immense. Proper striker, holds the ball up well, always puts 100% in, can score any type of goal. He's great with his head. He's probably one of these big strikers who's better with his feet than his head. He's going to go a long way, I think. We'll go. I think Gary's mentioned Dan Neil. Dan Neil, again, another one who's fallen off a little bit this season. Started off on fire, but he's only 20. he's gonna probably play high end championship. He's got a lot of skill on him, a very, very clever player, very calm player for his age. And then I'm struggling for the ones who can actually make the grade. I think we're going to need. I think bar the likes who we've brought Dennis Serkin, who's come from Tottenham. I think they make the step up quite easily. We signed a guy from Leeds called Niall Huggins, who unfortunately got a stress fracture in his back. And has missed the last 6 months, which is really, really harsh on him. But you look at our defence and how bad it's been this season, bar the last few games. I cannot see any of them. Maybe Bailey Wright can have a swan song up there, but we signed Danny Bart from Stoke, and he's barely played. He's picked up an injury, so we haven't seen the best of him yet. We probably need a right back. We've got a lad playing there at the minute called Carl Winchester, who I think is more of a midfielder. And we signed a guy from Ireland called Trey Hume, who's a Northern Ireland international and barely played. So I can't really make a judgment on him. But yeah, it doesn't matter what league, because I think if we don't get promoted, a lot of these players, like the likes of Stewart and Pritchard, I think will leave for a championship team. But if we do go up, it'll still need a hell of a lot of investment in. We're not silly. You look how many of these clubs who are going up. You look at Rotherham or Yo-Yo Club at the minute. Not Huddersfield, I'm thinking of Peterborough, who are going to come straight back down again. It's a difficult league to sustain yourself in, especially against all these big money hitters that are in that league now. You've got the three that are coming down from the championship. They'll get the parachute payments. You look at Norwich, who make a habit of using that second season, to go back up again and then come straight back down again. Fulham are the same, it's a very, very difficult league. So we are going to need a lot of investment. Doesn't matter what league we're in next season.
Seems to be the issue, doesn't it? Any player performs for you, Wigan seem to get them. So it's a bit frustrating, isn't it? Anything to add to that, Gary, at all?
Yeah, you missed out Jay Matete, 20 years old, potential Congo international. I think personally, I wouldn't be against him and Neil in the centre long term. 20 and 19 respectively would be a good shout to try and build something. Add Pat Roberts on the right hand side of that, then all we need is a decent left winger, and I think that's an all right midfield four. Bailey Wright, like Anne said, swan song most likely. He's been brilliant this season for us, very consistent. What we've needed. We do need a right back. Dennis Serkin, let's say we do go up, might not hit the championship heights in the first season, but maybe once you get a feel for the football, he could be a bit more of a consistent player. I don't feel Anthony Patterson will be ready for the championship. I don't feel like Jack Clark could do it if we got him on loan again. I think he's more interested in putting himself in a shop window for a permanent move. Ross Stewart, no one said he would get 20 goals this season. Everyone was against him. He's got 22 goals. Yes, he hasn't scored in the last 8 games from open play, but there is a striker there, and as Anne said, can see him playing in the Premier League. I could see him playing in the Premier League, maybe not for your likes of Wolves, for example, but definitely one of the lower league teams. I could see him being there and putting in a shift, so to speak. But the team needs an overhaul. The fans love Luke O'Nien, but I don't think Luke O'Nien is a championship player, in my honest opinion. There's a love-hate relationship with Lyndon Gooch. Some days he can be brilliant, and some days he is the battering ram for the fans. No one likes Corey Evans. Alex Neil sees something in him. He's very quiet in midfield. Hasn't done anything maybe to merit the abuse he's getting as of yet. He's sitting in there, and there's a reason he's playing this because Alex Neil likes him, and he's probably one of those midfielders who is ugly, playing ugly. Sorry, not ugly.
He's not listening to us, don't worry.
But again, he came from Blackburn and they're in the Championship, and I don't think Corey Evans will ever get back to Championship standards. Neither will Danny Bath. Arbonnet Jamalji, we don't know anything of him, and we don't know what he's really capable of. He's played, the amount of games he's played, I think I can probably count on one hand due to his injury, but I don't see him being there next season either, so I don't think we're ever going to find out what he can do personally. But there was a couple of, hot prospects as far as, the youth setup goes, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that.
Right. Well, I'm not going to ask if you think you're going to go up or not, because that's a really loaded question. What I will say, though, you've got 5 fixtures remaining, game in hand over Wycombe in 7th. Looking at your fixtures, you've got Shrewsbury at home, Plymouth away, Cambridge at home, Rotherham at home, and then Morecambe away on the final day, which could be a bit of a 6-pointer in terms of top and bottom of the league. How many points do you think you're getting out of those 5 games? I'm not going to say if that's enough for playoffs, just how many points do you think you're going to get out of the next 15?
Do you want me to go first here, Gary, or not?
Yeah, you
just add one onto his total or take one away. It's fine. Just, Can I copy your homework but not in the same handwriting? Don't make it look obvious.
Right. I think we'll beat Shrewsbury. Plymouth are a fantastic side at home, so I'll take a point. I think we'll beat Cambridge. Rotherham have fallen off the cliff as far as, their form's concerned.
I'm going to say they're losing tonight, aren't they? Yeah.
Tonight, off Portsmouth. So they're really struggling now. I'd actually say the top 2 at the minute are the favourites to go up. I think Wigan have been brilliant all season, to be fair to them, even though they've got half of our ex-players playing for them. But that's another story. So Rotherham at home, that's our last home game of the season. For me, we need to win that one. And then if we're in the playoffs before that Morton game, because as you said, it could be that we need to win to get in the playoffs. They'll be struggling for their lives to go down. You know what's going to happen there. So as long as we're in the playoffs, but we have actually just sold Morecambe out today. So there's going to be, I don't know how many we've been given, maybe 2,500 Sunderland fans there that will be baying for blood if we don't win that game, to be honest. So I'm gonna be optimistic, and I'm gonna say that we'll go the rest of the season unbeaten, because we're on a bit of a roll now. We're not conceding as many goals as we were. We're definitely not conceding stupid goals. We're starting to, get these, these extra time, added on time goals where, you can never switch off against us anymore. So I'm going to say we'll win the 3 home games and then beat Morecambe away and get a draw off Plymouth. So that's 13, isn't it?
Very decent return, and I think, moral of the story is never leave a Sunderland game early. Absolutely. Gary, would you agree with 13? Higher or lower than a 13? Gary, what do you think? It's a generation game, this, isn't it?
Well, I think we'll definitely take 3 points off Shrewsbury on Friday. I think we'll easily dispose of them. Plymouth, I'm going to go with a draw. Looking all right. I do think maybe we'll go behind against Plymouth, but I think we might get one later in the latter stages of the second half. Cambridge,
I'm going to say they only beat Newcastle. They're not that good.
They only beat Newcastle. They don't beat us. Yeah. For me, Banana Skin still is Rotherham. They've got. Is it Cole Stockton who they've got?
He's at Morecambe. He's been linked with higher up though.
Sorry.
I can't believe Cole Stockton's doing what he's doing. I've been watching him at Tranmere for years. He was fucking useless. So I can't believe he's not linked with a championship move.
It's insane. I think he's got like 22 goals or something, hasn't he? He's top scorer. But I thought he played for Rotherham. I don't know why I thought that. Probably because he got 22 goals. But I think Rotherham might beat us still. They've got a good goalkeeper, that Swedish lad. He's good. Hard to beat. But yes, they are on a slippery slope, as Ant has mentioned. Morecambe smashed them 5-0. Expecting us to smash them again, to be honest. The crap. But our football's ugly, so I think no one expected us to beat Wigan 3-0. But we did. So I'm hoping, we turn up against Rotherham. I only see Rotherham really is a problem there. So I think 3 points. Oh, is he? I didn't know that answer. Cheers. So I'll see Shrewsbury 3 points, Plymouth 1, 4, Cambridge 7, 10. I reckon we'll take 10.
Yeah, fair enough. I think with Rotherham, your biggest nemesis is Michael Smith. Got a hat-trick against you at the New York Stadium, I think. Also an Alan Shearer fanatic. So, yeah, that's going to sting a bit. Hopefully he doesn't do the same again to you up at the Stadium of Light. Jens, one final question. I know you like to do your baller and ball ache. Oh, have you got a question, Greg? Sorry, mate.
Yeah, is it? Oh, yeah, I'm on. I've got a quick question actually. So I've been trying to Google ex players for Rochdale and Sunderland, and I've found 2. So he was one of my favourite.
I know one of them straight away.
Okay, go for it.
Mad Dog McShane.
Paul McShane is one. That's 3. So that's 3 because I forgot about Paul.
We've got a Paul McShane reference the first time on the podcast. That's brilliant.
So that's 3 because I didn't think of Paul McShane and I should have done recently.
I'm not sure anyone thought of him, but there you go.
The one I've got is Will Buckley. A few seasons ago, about 3 years ago, was it? Something like that. How did it pan out for Will Buckley at Sunderland? Because he was such a prospect for Dale. He was quite an energetic winger at the time for us. And I think he played in the Premier League with somebody. I'm not too sure who it was, but how did it pan out for Will Buckley at Sunderland in the end?
If Gary might be better than me on this because I can't particularly remember him playing that many times. I think he might have actually played in the Premier League.
That probably shows.
He was in the Premier League for you guys.
I want to say it. I want to say that Will Buckley's biggest claim to fame is he set up a winner for He Who Must Not Be Named to score against Newcastle.
Got you.
So I think that was Will Buckley, but bar that, I can't remember much about him. So he was obviously not great.
Was on with Jack Colback, right? Yeah, He Must Not Be Named.
That's him. Yeah.
Will Buckley was signed by Gus Poyet, wasn't he?
He was at Brighton under Poyet, I think.
Where you got him from? What were you saying?
Remember him doing really well for Brighton before he got moved to Sunderland under Poyet.
Yeah. Because Poyet was at Brighton, wasn't he? And he did well with Brighton at the time. And I can't remember. I think it was 2 million, 2.5 million we signed him for. But I can't even, to be quite honest, I can't even remember him actually playing. I think he struggled with injuries for quite a lot of his time. I think he was with us for 3 seasons, but I don't imagine him making many appearances then. I haven't Googled it or anything, but I'd probably see he's probably made less than 10 appearances for Sunderland.
So basically, I think it's Rochdale, Watford, Brighton, and then Sunderland. And I've just looked in it now, but it says he only played 22 times for Sunderland, so that makes a lot of sense, actually. But I think he was riddled with a lot of injuries because last team he was playing for was Bolton, and that was, it says here, 2 years ago. But whether he's retired or not, I'm going to have a quick look at that. But he were such an energetic player for Dale, and it's always you always think, he's going to be good, like Craig Dawson or somebody. But I didn't really know what happened with Will Buckley in the end. I couldn't work it out, but it looks like he was just riddled with injuries. Obviously, you spoke about Paul McShane as well, but I found another one from a few years ago now. But it's Paul Butler, who was a centre back. I don't know if either of you remember his time at Sunderland. Was he any good for Sunderland, Paul Butler?
I remember him.
Oh, I love Paul Butler. Yeah, quality bloke. He was just your typical Sunday league looking footballer, wasn't he? You know, he was never one to be first and last at the gym. But I loved him. Absolutely loved him. We ended up we did a song about there's a folklore song about here called Niall Quinn's Disco Pants, and some group.
I need to hear this song.
That's amazing.
I'm not going to sing it, by the way.
They go up from his arse to his chest.
They were like, if you. That's it. That's the one. That's the one. And one of the lines of the song was, "If you've seen the size of Butler's thighs, he's running on pie energy." But cracking play. Loved him.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah.
He got to play.
I think it was
Bold as well. I mean, what a thrill that must have been for him. You know, to play alongside one of the best centre halves that ever graced the Premier League. I'm not taking a mick out. I love Steve Bold. You know, he was brilliant for us. But going back to McShane, can you remember the beach ball game? When
yes.
Scored? Yeah, with Paul McShane played that game, and he gave a better moment than that. He give a better mum than the beach ball and all that stuff, right? Liverpool have a corner in, like, it's getting up to, like, the 90th minute or something. And I think McShane doesn't know that it's gone out for a corner, because I can't remember who the Liverpool striker is. He's literally just dribbling it across the byline to put it out to knock it to the winger who's taking the corner, and Paul Butler goes running over and skives him. He gets the ball and gets the man. I think he didn't think it had gone out. It was absolutely hilarious.
I need to see this. But yeah, he was. We had him last season, Paul McShane, and he left to go to Man United as their youth team manager, which was quite strange.
He played against us.
This right, I got a game of centre off
in the whatever it is now, the Pizza Trophy.
Did he?
Right, Man United in the 23s, and got his ass kicked by Will Harris. So he was awful. He's obviously not improved anywhere he's gone this year.
See, I was looking at players that have played for both Everton and Sunderland, and there's bloody hundreds.
That's a podcast to itself. You can cut with an 11.
There's tons of them. I mean, the one I was reading up on, listed them. The one I do not remember happening, and it was around a few players going through, was Stephen Pienaar playing for Sunderland. I do not remember this.
Remember that?
No. Whether I just forgotten it, or whether I just blissfully was unaware that it was a thing. Because I'm aware they signed, there was about at least 5 Everton players that went in a short period of time to Sunderland. There was, Oviedo, the mentioned Darren Gibson, Julian Lescott, Adachabi went for a while at that point. But I had no recollection of Stephen Pienaar playing for Sunderland for some reason.
It's probably because he didn't play many times, Matt. He didn't. He came again at the wrong end of his career. It was one of those ones where Moyes, I think, was just desperate to bring somebody in, and obviously Pienaar was someone who he trusted.
Getting the band back together.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Adachabi.
Everton circa 2011, just reunited.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much like it worked at Everton. It could work at Sunderland, whereas Adachabi did all right. And to be fair to Gibson, I know he had his demons off the pitch, and obviously what happened when he got sacked for drunk driving. But up until the point he got injured in that championship season, was actually playing really well for us. So I don't really particularly have any ill will towards him. And obviously, you know, now we've got obviously Nathan Broder, I've mentioned once or twice. You look at like Jordan Pickford for Everton. You know, I think it is like probably in a podcast in itself. There's probably about 100 I can probably rattle off, to be honest. Loads.
Am I right in thinking you had Thomas Meyer at one point in goal?
We did.
Good God.
Thomas Meyer, there's a reference. My God. I haven't had that name for a while. Bloody hell.
I knew you had. I thought it was another one because I had him in mind. And I had another player as well who was before our time, I think, gents, but a very good player, Paul Bracewell. He was part of our 85 league and cup winners' cup, but inside, I think we got him from you. Could be wrong. Back in the 80s, he was a cracking player. Alongside Peter Reid, who of course managed you guys.
Yeah, and then Reid in the season that we got promoted to the Premier League brought Bracewell back to be his assistant manager. And that was the first time I saw Bracewell. He had an absolutely fantastic season. What a player he was, man. Brilliant player.
So we could probably make an entire new podcast about just Everton and Sunderland connections, to be honest. And I think there's always been a good little, without sounding too lovey, a good little brotherhood between both clubs. I think there's been a lot of solidarity, especially with I mentioned it with you guys on your podcast, but the Bradley Lowry Foundation work that Everton did alongside Sunderland, the fact that both got delusional, annoying, richer neighbours that we very much vehemently dislike. There's a lot there that we can sympathise with each other. We're probably two of the most unluckiest, hard done by supporter bases in the country. And moving on to Ball Lakes, I was just going to say, you do on your part the feature Baller or Ball Lake for the week. Well, I'm going to somewhat extrapolate that for the entire time in League One. What's your baller moment? So maybe your best moment in League One, if it's possible. And probably easier to think of as your biggest ball ache. The moment where you've gone, fucking hell, lads, we're in League One. We're really in the doldrums here. Oh, what the fuck are we doing here? You've got as long as you need, guys. You'll be here a while, I'm sure, for that latter one. But your baller and ball ache of your time in League One thus far. Hopefully it's not for much longer.
You can go first on that one.
Oh, thanks, mate. You know what? We got to Wembley 3 times. No, I can't really say that because we didn't. The one we won, no one was allowed to go due to COVID. So I've got to rule that one out straight away. I don't want to be horrible to Greg.
I was against Tranmere.
Yeah, true. Against James Vaughan as well, another ex-Sunderland and Everton player.
Just keep throwing them in.
I'll keep remembering them all. Best moment. I struggle because it's just been 4 years of shite. Probably, and again, I don't mean it.
Why do you think I asked you?
Not the Netflix.
No, not the Netflix documentary at all. No. Like I say, I won't watch this.
Not the EDM scene from the Netflix.
I won't watch this. I haven't seen the second series. I won't watch it. I refuse to watch it. It just brings back too much. That Wembley.
I do not blame
that
you.
Wembley heartache. I mean, I went when we got beat off Charlton, and I was only a kid then, and that hurt. But that one hurt more. It really did. The last minute, it was horrendous, and then there was a little bit of trouble in the crowd afterwards as well, which I stupidly got involved in. But it's by the by. I can't like the one moment where I thought we're definitely going up. There's two actually, so I'll narrow it down. I'm not going to be horrible to Greg because one of them is against Rochdale when we beat Rochdale 2-1 on Grand National Day. So it's about 3 years ago.
I remember this. Yeah, I was there.
Roll had just won its second national, so that was one where I thought we're definitely going up. We managed to balls it up, but I'd probably say it was last season against Portsmouth, and I think it was a Friday night game it was on the television anyway, and everyone was like, it's all this stuff where you watch the build up and it's like, oh, it's all Portsmouth that, and I think Portsmouth were on a really, really good run, and we absolutely demolished them. Wyke scored and Jordan Jones scored as well, and that was a moment I went on. I mean, I've got like another podcast of this as well. That I'm part of, the Roker Report, and I went on the Roker Report that night and said we are going up, and that was the best I felt in League One. So that I'd probably say that one, but I haven't got many, even though we have had some highs. But we've been top maybe 3 weeks out of 4 years, and it's not good enough, And I don't mean that to be big-headed or this, diminishing League One, because I really don't. We're in League One for a reason. But it's like, and then at the other point, it's like, this is Sunderland, and really it shouldn't have taken this long. It has, and I just hope we're out of it this year, to be honest. So I'll have to say the Portsmouth away game, because that was the one I thought we were definitely going to be promoted, and it went all Pete Tongue anyway, so.
Like Anne said, it's hard, because being League One's gross, but one of the most positive things probably really from this season was that we had a good cup run, and we made it to the Emirates to play Arsenal, albeit Arsenal smashed us 5-1, but Nathan Broadhead scored a good goal, and at that time it was, I think we went in half time 1-1 off the top of my head, but second half, yes, it did fall apart, and at that moment in time, it's kind of like, well, dare to dream, we might knock Arsenal out the cup. Granted, it didn't happen, but it was a nice feeling, and I'm pretty sure over the last 4 years that we've been in League One, back in December when we were top of the league, albeit for a game or two, I'm pretty sure that's the only time we've been top of League One, which was a nice feeling, because really that's where we should be. But the moments are few and far between. Anne touched on, heartbreak with playoffs. A ball ache for me was against Lincoln City. We got beat 2-0 in the first leg. We won the second leg 2-1. So when we pulled it back, it was like we could go on and we could go to the final here. Granted, Lincoln got that goal, which ultimately put us out, and that was kind of hard to take, because we're a better side than Lincoln, and we shouldn't have lost that game. But in the second half, a lot of the times under Lee Johnson, yes, the team did tend to fall apart in the second half, which wasn't nice to watch. It was heart attack football is what I'd call it, but it was difficult, because we shouldn't have got beat off Lincoln. We did well to come back in that leg, but then they got that goal which took them through the final. So yeah, I would probably say that's definitely a ball ache moment for me, aside from Portsmouth as well.
Yeah, just very quickly, Jimmy, me ball ache is the 14 months that we had to endure having Phil Parkinson as our manager, because that was an absolute horrific stage of our existence, and we hope we never get anyone as feeble
He's
and
crap, isn't he?
as a coward and as a man who literally did not know what it meant to run Sunderland Football Club, to manage Sunderland Football Club in his life. He was on his best job he'll ever get in his life, and I'm not gonna. Phil Johnson, Phil Parkinson will never get a better job than Sunderland AFC. And again, that's not being big-headed. It's been matter of fact, and he balls it up, and he had us playing the worst football I've ever seen in my life. And the fact that he's now, managing a team who's run by two Hollywood superstars, just beggars belief, to be honest. It's madness, isn't it? But,
yeah, I was just going to say, he is at Wrexham, isn't he?
Any game under Phil Parkinson. But yeah, he's at Wrexham. Yeah, he's going to get promoted as well. But anyway, any game under Phil Parkinson, Bolton 0-0 at home, a Boxing Day about 3 years ago now, was the worst game I've ever seen in my life. Both sides were playing this was when Bolton still had the youth team playing for them. And we were absolutely shambolic, and that was just horrendous. And somehow Parkinson managed to not just get to the end of the season; he managed to get a good few months into the last season before they had the grace of God to get rid of him. So, but just go back. I want to erase that from my memory, to be honest, and of Sunderland's memory. To be honest, it was a horrendous bit of football.
Is it similar to the Rafa Benitez era that we will never speak of again for as long as I live?
Pretty much. I mean, that was kind of a different kind of thing, because why on earth would Everton want Rafa Benitez when he's managed the arch rivals? I mean, it's basically, look what happened at Newcastle with Steve Bruce. It was never going to work, because Steve Bruce, he used to manage Sunderland. Yes, he's a Newcastle fan, but he used to manage Sunderland. It's like if... I'm trying to think of a half-decent manager they've ever had. Imagine if Eddie Howe gets sacked at Newcastle and then comes Sunderland. We would not want him at Sunderland, because he's managed there. And as much as I want to go into Rafa...
Well, what if you got Rafa?
You know what it is with Rafa, though, as well? Rafa was finished at Newcastle. They should have just let him do whatever he wanted to do in China for his big money bucks. And for me, and I know I'm going off topic here about Everton, if Everton do go down, and I really, really hope, guys, I'm not just saying this because I'm on a podcast with Everton fans, but I really do want them to stay up. As much as it pains us to say that Burnley would have to go down, because there's a couple of Burnley fans coming out who I really, really like, and I like Burnley as a football club. But Frank Lampard is not at fault for this. This isn't his team. This isn't, anything he's done. Yes, I know you're not playing great football, this, that, and the other. I know but this is Rafa's team, and Rafa's made some horrendous decisions, in since he's come in, and it's sometimes, is it too little, too late? Is the Man United win too little, too late? I don't know, but whoever made that decision, I mean, I know he has been sacked since then, but they just want to hang their heads in shame and should never work in football again.
No, I think it's safe to say that neither of our clubs have welcomed Rafa Benitez with open arms. Maybe Rochdale manager one day, possibly, but we'll see about that. And on Phil Parkinson, Bolton, Bradford did a great job, Wrexham, but Sunderland are on a vastly different level to those clubs, in, I think, most of our personal opinions. Any further questions, boys, at all?
No, it's been a joy to listen to you guys talk about it. I've really enjoyed it for the last time.
No, it's been brilliant just to catch up with Sunderland. Really enjoyed it. We were in the same division as them a couple of years ago and things like that, but you do lose track of some other teams, and it's Sunderland I couldn't keep up with, but obviously when we were in the same division I did. It's been great. It's been a good episode.
Thank you very much, gents. Always welcome back on, and likewise, we would love to be back on your podcast soon. And where can we find your podcast on the social medias?
Gary's the one for this, guys.
I thought this would be the case. So if you were looking for the What a Ball Ache podcast, you'd be able to find it on Apple, Spotify, Sounder, and Google Podcasts. However, Google do sometimes restrict the podcasts for explicit language, and I don't know why they do it. So I'd maybe probably not go to Google, but obviously you can find us as well on Twitter and Instagram. We have been doing a lot with Spaces as well lately, trying to build up a little bit of a following for that. So every now and then we do try to get a space out. But just on the back of that as well, fellas, just obviously want to thank you for having us on as well. Do really appreciate it, and been a really good chat.
Yeah, it's nice to talk to fans who are just as miserable as Sunderland fans, to be honest. Not excluding Rochdale, obviously. I do think Rochdale will come back, but yeah, I think we're both cases of what could have been and what can potentially happen. So fingers crossed we're playing each other in the Premier League soon. That's the Everton fans, and I would love another trip back to the Crown Royal Stadium because I absolutely love it.
Yeah, the Men in Blue doesn't refer to the blue shirts because we're all fucking miserable around here. That's what it's all about.
I think that's what it is.
But yeah, please do subscribe and listen to the What a Ball Like podcast on the social medias, as well as Men in Blue podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Men in Blue Pod CA1, as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple iTunes, and wherever else. You just Google us, we'll be around somewhere. And if we're not, then let us know. Thank you all very much for joining us today, including Greg, Matt, Gary and Ant. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we look forward to being back in your ears very, very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Social Podcast Network.